Hey everybody, I'm Mortdog, and this is the patch 11.19 post-mortem, where we go over the changes we made last patch and talk about how they worked out, what worked, what didn't, what we screwed up, what we got right, things like that. Normally I would be joined by Riot Kent, the other designer on the live pod, but he is out partying, having fun, celebrating, so it's just me today. We're going to do it old school, where it's just me, so haven't done this in a while, might be a little weird, but let's try it. So here we go. Patch 11.19, we lowered the Tome of Traits by about 40%. I think this was a win. It's one of those things that will quote unquote make the game less fun, but we definitely are seeing less giant swings from the Tome of Traits. I'm filming this on Friday, so day one of the Reckoning Championship has happened. You know, we're not seeing a ton of traits, Tome of Traits like we did at the, NA regionals, but we're still seeing some. So consider this a success. Happy with this. We also removed the 2 Reforgers plus 5 gold from Radiant. Again, pretty easy win. Pretty happy with this. Did exactly what we wanted it to. So, sweet. Easy changes. Good stuff. Alright, on the trait side, Skirmisher. We buffed it again. Did it matter? No. That's another one of our nickel and dime changes. We keep lightly touching things. It didn't really change much. Skirmisher, at this point, we're going to try one more big buff on the way out, but at this point it might just be doomed and go down as one of those traits that really just never worked due to the structure. So, something to learn from that. Tristana rework. I think this worked okay. She's definitely a more healthy champion now. So I think in that regard we got this right. But interestingly enough, she doesn't quite feel like the star of any particular comp right now. You can run her, though. There have definitely been Tristana games that you can win with, especially if you hit it early. Certainly overshadowed by Kled this patch, which is, kind of a big deal, as they both serve a very similar function. The fact that you'd rather have the items on Kled than Tristana, little gross. But overall, it got us in the right direction. It was a light change, and it definitely made her more playable than she was the previous patch. So overall, considering it success, it's the kind of thing where like a number might be off here. Like if starting mana was 70 out of 125 maybe, or attack damage was 70, there might be some changes there. But overall, good change. Thresh nerf, good change. Not even going to debate it. This is a good change. Thresh being less frustrating, good. Sweet. Ashe. Ashe getting 10 AD helped a little. Certainly don't think we're seeing a ton of Ashe carry, but small buff to Ashe made her a little better. I think the big thing here is it's like, if you get an Ashe out of Capsule, are you excited to play it at 2-1? The answer's still kind of no, and I'm not sure what it would take to make that not true. But overall, at least, the fact that we buffed a champion that was bad, and now they're a little better but still not overpowered, means it was a good change. I'll take it. Okay, Draven. This is a big one. This rework, to be honest with you, I kind of consider a failure. Not that it was bad, but like the timing of it, doing it right before Worlds, and then what did it change? Not a lot. Like Draven still feels like Draven. He just kind of does better against Ironclad a little. Fine. Props to Kent. I think he got the numbers close to right, to where Draven wasn't overpowered. Draven's still viable. We've seen him do well at the Reckoning Finals. People can still play this comp. But it's still just so much worse than Lucian that it didn't really solve the, like, hey, Draven's the cool, risky front to back. You'd still just kind of rather play Lucian most of the time. So I might be being a little overcritical. Again, it's not that it was bad. It's just that it didn't move the needle much, and Draven's still kind of a difficult to play 4-cost carry. So for that, I think we could have done better. Heimerdinger change. I think this is a good change. Heimerdinger is starting to be a little more meta. It depends, you have to high roll it. You've got to get that early Draconic. You've got to get the right items. But he's still a very scary caster. Get an Archangel on him. Can do well. This buff pushed him back into the meta a little bit without making him aggressive. So, good change. Sweet. Spear of Shojin. Really good change. I'm really happy we did this one. Radiant Spear of Shojin. Very good item now. Solid slam dunk. If anything, made it really desirable on champs like Lux, Vel'Koz, even Heimerdinger. So, good change. The Zerat portal change. fine. It seems to be better. If anything, where it's interesting because this came out right as Assassins kind of fell out of the meta. You don't see a lot of Assassin comps right now. I think this is the kind of change that will help us in the long term. You'll see in set 6, my guess is like this will become a very desirable item again, assuming there's any sort of like back to front comps. But overall, probably a good change in the long term, but did very little in the short term. All right, on the small changes side, A-Bomb. Another nickel and dime change. Again, the definition of these small changes was always things that buff stuff but don't really change the meta. And so the Abomination 4-5 change kind of fits the bill. You still don't really want to play 4-5 right now. So it buffed it. Didn't change the meta. Cannoneer 4, same thing. It buffed it. You still don't really play it a lot. Have seen a few games where people now at least consider it, though. So that's really cool to see, especially if you get an emblem. Cannoneer Uxshun can be really cool. Okay, let's talk about this one. So the one cost ones here are really interesting. The Udyr change didn't change a damn thing. This is another small change that didn't change much. Udyr 3 is still Udyr 3, and most of the time what ends up happening is the shield just fades away before it gets deleted anyway, so the number didn't change much. The Kled change. I think a lot of people will look at this and go, they buffed Kled, and Kled became meta, therefore this was a bad buff. If anything, I'm taking away a very important learning here, and I'm going to call these placebo buffs. I actually think the Balance team is going to have to start using placebo buffs a little bit more. Because Kled, this buff, what this did was only at 3-star, and only when he dismounts, he gains a little more attack speed. I do not think this had any impact on making Kled meta. What I do think it did, though, is got people to try Kled again. And when they tried Kled, they realized he was, in fact, strong. And then we started to see optimizations on the items, learned how to play the Hellion comp well, and it became a good, solid A to S tier comp. And so in the future, I think we're going to use this tool more often, where we do these little placebo buffs that we know isn't going to change a lot, but might get people to try them. So kind of a really cool learning from this patch that I expect us to do more of. Leona, this is another interesting one. I remember reading the results on this and players reacting to this going, why is this in small change? You've gutted Leona. She's terrible now. Except she's not. She's still just as strong as she always was. And it just kind of shows you that this number was always insane. If anything, Leona 3's spell might as well have said, be immune to damage for 4 seconds. Because that's basically what it was when it shipped at 400. Even at 200, it was nutty. At 120, at least Draven can, hit her kind of hard. But she's still Leona. She's still tanky. So overall, this nerf landed really well. And it was one of those ones I'm happy that, it didn't actually end up being an overblown nerf. So cool to see. Set 2 change. Or set 3. This one's interesting because I expected this to do very little, and to be honest, I still think this is another placebo buff. But again, it got people trying set, and I saw at least one Reddit guide that was saying, you can make set work. So he's not the worst, but nice to see set get a little love. Didn't make him super meta or overpowered or anything. So again, we buffed a comp without it becoming too meta. That's a success. Soraka, similar thing. At least we're starting to see some renewer comps. Renunu is looking real strong if you can pull it off. You get that 3-star Soraka, 3-star Nunu with a renewer spat. This can be a really fun comp, so the Soraka change seems pretty solid. The one thing I'll say is that Soraka 1 is still really worthless. I think that's something we're going to have to address. But overall, good change. Misfortune. This was the change I was the most nervous about. Misfortune was already a decent comp if you hit it, and the fact that she could cast much sooner meant you didn't necessarily need a tier item, means you could run something like a Jeweled Gauntlet without having to run the Archangel, and I think our data actually showed Misfortune being really, really good, so if anything, I think this became not a top elo problem, but a high to mid problem, in the Diamond Masters range, is that Misfortune actually became very good if you can hit it. But what's interesting is, again, it kind of struggled with the Kled, the Hellion comps because of how much they move around, how much Misfortune can miss. So overall, the buff ended up working out. But I'm still I'm still nervous about this buff. So, Nidalee and Riven buffs. These were, again, I feel like these are also placebo buffs that really didn't work. We're not seeing a ton of Nidalee 3, Riven 3. I know there was a brief part of this patch where people saw like 5 Dawnbringer champs get buffed, and they were like, oh my god, it's going to be a Dawnbringer patch. That certainly did not come to pass. Shocking. Turns out 5% on the 3-star only versions isn't going to do that. Cool. So these are just, again, these are in the small changes for a reason. They're not supposed to change the meta. They didn't. They're successful. Karma. Same thing, actually. Karma on ladder can actually be pretty good now. I think Karma might be as strong as we're probably ever going to get her at this point without like really warping it back to her set 5 days. So seems pretty good. And then Garen, same thing. Again, all of these small changes buffed champions that needed a little love without making them broken. Pretty good. So cool. And then mobile, we made a bunch of changes. Sweet. Good stuff. Oh yeah, the new tutorial. That was sick. So yeah, pretty short post-mortem here because it is just me. Now, the one thing I'll say is that it's interesting because, again, I'm recording this on Friday, so I don't know how Saturday's Worlds goes. But the one thing we considered when we looked at the data was that Misfortune and one cost 3 stars looked a little strong in the data. This is specifically Kled, Callista, Vayne, and Kha'Zix. We had considered B-patching them. It was really, really close, but we decided that letting the World's competitors have a full patch to practice on and go in with as much practice was more important than a very slight B-patch that was going to be things like -5 AD. So we ended up with that. We'll see again. There's 3 more days of Worlds to go as the time I'm filming this. We'll see how it plays out, because that could change if it becomes a reroll meta by the end of the day. Oh god, then that was a mistake, and you can call me on it. And I'm not going to lie, the end of game 1 when Kled won, y'all were memeing me really hard. I got a lot of nasty DMs at 3 in the morning that really shouldn't be getting, but, thankfully it all worked out, and so we'll see. All right, that's going to do it for me. Pretty short post-mortem. So it happens, it's just me, kind of old school. But yeah, there will be one more post-mortem. We will do one for 11:20, and then we'll go on our break. We usually don't do one for the last patch, and then the next set comes out, so it should be exciting. All right, so until next time, one more of these, and then fun stuff. All right, it's going to do it for me. Take it easy.